For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 9775.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 9775, a bill to designate the facility of the United States Postal Service located at 119 North Anderson Street in Elwood, Indiana, as the Officer Noah Jacob Shahnavaz Post Office Building.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Langworthy, and the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, each will control 20 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New York.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous materials on this measure.
Without objection,
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill, which would rename a post office in Indiana for Officer Noah Shahnavaz. After graduating from Fishers High School in 2016, he joined the U.S. Army and was deployed to the Middle East. Later, Officer Shahnavaz became a dedicated member of the Elwood Police Department in Indiana. Officer Shahnavaz's life was cut short on July 31st, 2022, when he was ambushed by a shot during a routine traffic stop. I encourage my colleagues to support this bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
I'm rising in support of H.R. 9775 to honor Noah Shahnavaz. Born and raised in Indianapolis, he joined the U.S. Army in 2016, where he was deployed to the Mideast as a sergeant with the 591st Military Police Company. Officer Shahnavaz transitioned to a new service role in law enforcement by taking a position with the Elwood Police Department in 2021. Tragically, he was killed on duty on July 21st, 2022, during a traffic stop. This bill would honor his life and the great service of Officer Shahnavaz, and also recognize the sacrifice of his family by naming a post office in Elwood, Indiana after him. We urge passage of the legislation, and I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 4 minutes to the gentlewoman from Indiana, Ms. Spartz.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of H.R. 9775 to honor the life of fallen Elwood police officer Noah Jacob Shahnavaz by naming the Elwood, Indiana post office after him. Officer Shahnavaz was a dedicated public servant, a courageous protector of his community, and a beloved member of the Elwood Police Department. Born in 1998, he served our country with distinction as a sergeant in the U.S. Army, deploying to the Middle East during the global war on terror. His leadership and professionalism earned him the respect of his fellow soldiers. After his military service, Officer Shahnavaz returned home to Indiana, joining the Elwood Police Department in 2021. His calm demeanor, work ethic, and deep sense of duty quickly made him a respected member of the force. Tragically, on July 31, 2022, Noah's life was cut short during a routine traffic stop. He was ambushed and fatally shot by an individual with a violent criminal history. He was just 24 years old. Today, we honor his legacy and ensure that his ultimate sacrifice is never forgotten by naming the Elwood Police Office in his memory. I appreciate all members of the Indiana delegation sponsoring this bill on a bipartisan basis, and I urge my colleagues in the House to support this important legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. The gentleman is recognized.
I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from New York reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
And we're prepared to close.
Gentleman reserves.
I also have no further speakers and am prepared to close.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
We urge legislation, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I encourage my House colleagues to support this bill naming a post office for Officer Noah Shahnavaz. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 9775? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from